I'm Matt Schultz.
Oh, and I'm Austin Cummings.
And thank you for tuning in to another Nintendo podcast.
Yes.
This week, we talk about Nintendo sales numbers.
Yeah, Nintendo sales numbers are exciting. But Matt, before we get there, we have a little exciting announcement that only pertains to this episode. Listener, this episode comes to you...
It's you, King D.
You, King D. Comes to you live off the air. Matt, tell them a little bit about how we meet.
Yeah, so we are actually here in person, in the flesh.
Right.
I can touch Austin's
and,
hair right now. It's
and
beautiful
in fact,
locks.
he is. I've asked him to stop, but he insisted for the sake of the show. But that is true. We are in the same place.
It's
Very
great.
exciting.
We'll add his dedetergent into the show notes.
Right. Well, yeah. It'll link in the bio as to all the health, the beauty care products I buy. But we're here
In the flesh.
In the flesh, it's very exciting for us.
Yeah.
We haven't done that yet. It's all been over the internet waves. It's through the tubes, beaming back and forth, lightning quick, which has been fine, which is good.
Right.
And that's the way certainly will continue. So if you no thoughts of this is gonna be the way it is on the here on out, but it is
Right.
this and the audio quality.
I'm trying to get Chicago to be his hometown.
Right, that's
at some
really
point in
pushing
the
for it. I
future.
really appreciate. Yeah, I'm just kind of seeing what it's all about, seeing what this whole Illinois thing is all doing.
Comment leaving whether you want him to join.
Right, so hey,
me in
put it to
Chicago.
a vote.
Yeah.
We'll have a little survey monkey in the bio.
It would be great. It would be absolutely
Well,
great.
it's very kind. But I'm here for a family event. Matt and I meeting up here, wanting to do a little show, a
Right.
check-in. It's exciting for us to do it.
Yep.
And so we thought it kind of fun. We also thought it'd be a good way to kick off the first
Number
episode.
one.
Number one. So
This is it.
So here we are. So now this is number one. You're gonna notice a huge change in quality. I'm talking way sharper transitions, no dead air. This is what it's like normally. If we're a professional podcast, number one, baby, we did it. Scoreboard.
Come a long way.
Come a long way. Can you
0.8 episodes.
Maybe this is what
before
we should do is like kind of like a retrospective podcast, like what they do at the end of Seinfeld, or like when you have like you kind of go back and kind of look at all the things that we can play like Good Riddance, something to that effect. And
Remember that
another
time?
turning point. That's our song for the show.
If you've been with us for all 0.8 episodes up to now,
Right.
you remember when Austin and I were just echoing.
Right. Oh, for crazy. I actually this is an admission on my part, a confessional. In the early episodes, I was like playing around with my GarageBand stuff, and I even like turned up the echoing briefly because I was like, maybe this is like a fun noise. And then I was like googling online, people were like, do not have any echo, like soundproof your studio, and I'm like, oh, turn off that feature.
Which, by the way, we are not in. This is definitely a very large,
this
echoey
is a
room.
professional sound space. We're surrounded wall to wall with insulating material. Very good.
We're at my place here in
Right.
Chicago.
Look,
Eventually,
we're still
we'll get
working
to-
out the kinks of the
Right.
show, but this is the official launch. So please tell your friends, call us any minute you're wanted to chat. We're excited to have you. Email us another Nintendo podcast at gmail.com, real emailers. And also we're gonna kick this off by finally having our content maybe on the RSS feed so we can get it on the podcast app,
That's
which is
right.
very exciting. That technology
Austin
not
is
easy to
giving
pull
me
together.
a stern look. So
Listen,
I need to get on sending him those audio files.
Here's the deal. We have the audio files. We need to make sure they're all up to iTunes standards. No Pika is in the mix, so we gotta kind of edit it briefly, but we're gonna put that out this week. We'll get it done.
So, Austin, we're here in my apartment.
Yes, it's very
we're
nice.
chatting. We're having a couple of brews.
Right, because we're very fun.
Yeah, we're good. We are average Nintendo fans.
Right, just really through and through. Well, listen, Matt and I, as official kickoff, we make no pretenses as to any type of, real
Right.
professional insight or
Right.
inside baseball. You won't find any of that here. Just outside baseball. I saw a
Right.
Cubs game.
Right. Oh,
That was
that's right.
And that was outside
Fun.
baseball.
Also-
And that's what our podcast is all about, baseball. In honor of Splatoon.
Right.
Because had soccer won, that would have somehow...
Platoon, right? You would have gone to a
some-
Chicago Fire game,
Which is now,
Yeah,
that's
the
a
soccer
scoop. They're the Chicago Fire's a team.
Yeah.
Very good.
They're pretty good though. Actually.
Are they?
Yeah. They're actually the women's soccer team.
Oh, cool. I think we have the
they are fire.
Thorns or something. Fire. Yeah, we have the Timbers in Portland.
The Timbers, right.
That's the men's team. But I think the Thorns or whatever. It's very cool. Soccer's cool. And we're all pro soccer, but baseball won, so I saw a baseball game. But yes,
We're actually going to do a whole series where we just do things based on Splatfest.
Right, exactly. Honestly, though, that's a very good idea. Now that we're talking a little bit, this is kind of our ANP headliner of the week. Let's just kick it off now.
Yeah,
We've been
let's do
talking
it.
a little bit about what we want to do, with the show, and we kind of want to find some special segments and things like that,
Right.
to kind of work in to kind of give us a little bit of an interesting angle. We love doing the news, and I know it myself as a podcast listener. The news is
same.
something I enjoy a lot of the times. It's fun to see people's impressions of the news and get them all in one place. So we're definitely going to keep doing that. But finding another episode perhaps
Never
once a
fear.
month.
Still going to get that.
Yeah, don't worry. We're going to get you the news. We know this is your only means of getting the news is this
Dumb
way.
information.
You have no internet contact except for one YouTube subscription to our podcast.
Which is like the 57th YouTube video down the road.
Yeah, good luck finding another. It's like the worst like searchable name. Another Nintendo podcast. But so we're gonna keep that up. We're gonna find some other ways to kind of play with the format a little bit to hopefully kind of pull people in and see stuff. So if you do have something you would like to see, please write it in the comments.
Yes.
Or reach us at that Gmail, which does exist.
We do.
And so
Another Nintendo podcast
at gmail.com. Exactly. So consider that if you have some suggestions. And Matt and I are throwing out some ideas. A little bit about ourselves. Let's do this for the headliner.
Right.
I'm
Our ANP introduction series.
ANP introduction series. There it is. I'm Austin. I live in the Portland area, and I come to my house. And I do. I'm in the medical field, doing some field engineer work, and so kind of do a lot of driving for my job, and as such, really enjoy listening to video game podcasts and politics podcasts and entertainment podcasts and the like. And so, and Matt, tell them about yourself.
Yeah, so here in Chicago now, I work in higher education. So we're here at a Chicago university that I work at. Grew up in Los Angeles. Actually met Austin back in college.
Yes,
and we've stayed connected ever since. We met and realized we both had a pretty significant love for all things
a crippling
Nintendo.
love for Nintendo. And so Matt and I will, when the occasional game releases, kind of get in touch and chat about it. And so we thought, you know what, let's put that to a microphone and let's get the content out there.
6
And
years
so,
later,
right?
whatever
Very
it
good.
was.
It's coming some, so it's due time, and we think it's very fun. We're very excited about it and ways to kind of grow it. But
Right.
that's
So why
kind
don't
of
you give us a
background.
little bit of information on what was it about Nintendo that you think you fell in love with?
Oh my god!
Right.
Yeah, we didn't even discuss this before. Well, Nintendo's always been, my one true love, and the only thing I managed to have any strong feelings about in my entire life. It's the one thing that keeps me feeling
The most commitment you've
right. Well, my Nintendo experience is that it started back. I was born in the early '90s, and I received a Game Boy Pocket. I believe from my grandfather, probably in '90.
Which color?
It was red,
Oh,
and I still
nice.
have it.
That's
And
what I was
actually,
thinking of.
recently I made a work video, and I featured it briefly, and I was very excited. So I got a Game Boy Pocket, and I got it with the Star Wars game. So that was for A New Hope.
Very nice.
Although I do not believe it had the subtitle at that point.
Right.
But I'm absolutely not sure about that at all. But in any event, it was the New Hope game on Game Boy. It's not a great game, but that was the first game and game system that I owned, probably in '96 or so. It was around the release of the Game Boy Pocket. Not sure when that is. Probably earlier than that. But in any event, so that was my very first experience. And Pokemon in '98 was a big deal for me, and I really, really adored that. And I've continued to have a love for the series. Eventually the both, but I started with red.
Blue. Interesting.
Very good.
I was
That's
a
great.
Blastoise
We
fan.
can have a lot of good opinions, controversial takes on this then. And so, yeah, that's kind of where it spawned. And I think if there's something I love about Nintendo, it's the kind of the craftsmanship that extends across all their games that has, whatever the mood is, it's that attention to detail and really toy-like nature and attention to detail that all their games possess. It really feels like a wonderful ecosystem that's like friendly to play around with and a comforting friend. And the properties that come out of it are ones I totally look forward to with the level of anticipation that I don't often feel for other things
Right.
in the gaming space. Although there are exceptions, but just getting a piece of Nintendo hardware, a company that has merged both the hardware and software to really capitalize on one another is just such a special kind of intangible
That was a good
experience.
take.
And it's a hot take
I like
scoop.
that,
All right,
yeah.
thanks for listening. So that's really what I love about Nintendo. Matt, tell us about your first experience with the big N.
Man, so I grew up in a part of Los Angeles, and I don't know, do I give it on the show? Do I not?
Right, no. Yeah.
So
All of our
anyways,
fans
I don't want
turn up
all the fans saying too many
Right.
letters. No, so I grew up in next to a neighbor who had an SNES and an NES, and my brothers and he would always invite us over. He worked in the film industry, and he lived on his own, and he would invite us over, and we didn't have a game console at the time. So growing up, we'd go over and we would play, Mario World and Yoshi and just I don't know. God.
Yeah, sure.
He had an N64. We played Yoshi's Story for the first time at his place. So that's where the Yoshi comes from.
That whole 3-hour game.
And that whole 3-hour game. But, when you're 12 years old or 11 years old, you're like, oh, my God, there's a black Yoshi and a red Yoshi.
Things to find, I know. So the world really opens up.
But it really all started when, so neighbor got the N64 at launch. And, we didn't know when launch was. We didn't know anything about that. But my brothers and I all decided, we got together, and we're all 2 years apart, and we decided we're gonna pull our allowance.
You're gonna do it.
We pull our allowance. We had $40.
That's the running cost. It's a different time.
And we approached my dad, and we're like, we would really like to buy an N64 together. Yeah. And my dad made us a deal. He was trying to teach us about business and interest and taking a loan out. And we're like,
and that's why you are now a financial advisor.
Yeah, right.
Right. Very good.
And so he helped us out. We went to the Best Buy at the time, and I remember there was a giant Rogue Squadron,
nice.
advertisement.
It sounds like Star Wars, also intimately tied to your first Nintendo experience.
Absolutely, it was, and that's
all good things are.
But we got Yoshi's Story. And I remember my dad bought a Japanese import of Yoshi's Story.
Oh wow, deep cut, Papa.
Someone he met at work.
No way.
Got him, and so
he's like, "You're gonna want this."
Yeah, and we're like, "We don't understand anything it's saying, Dad."
What about the rich story in this game?
Quickly, I made a mistake. So, but we played. One of our favorite games on that was Quest 64, and my brother was the player. Right. I was the navigator, which is the stupid title he gave me, and Ben was the lookout or observer in case our parents came. We're like,
that's more of a practical.
Get off that game, right.
Let me tell you about playing this many hours ago. Quest 64, interesting game to have played. I love also just the name of that game. It's so of a different time because it's a totally nondescript.
No, it's just
an RPG
it's a quest
game.
Yeah.
It's Quest.
And you had a guy with a sword and a cape, and
that's a quest, baby. You got a quest brewing.
Oh God, it was and it was just such a I don't know, engaging way for us to be in the same room together. We thought it was an adventure. Totally. This was before we were really playing Zeldas and stuff, right?
Sure.
And obviously that was kind of a gateway for stuff like that. But that was kind of our story. And ever since, I'm one of my brothers. They all still play games, but I've been the Nintendo fan of the trio. So I'm the first one to own a Switch. They both have PlayStations. They migrated from the 360 phase to the PlayStation phase. And although I own those consoles, I've always been the Nintendo fanboy. And so here I am.
That's awesome. Similar stories. And it might be something we'd kind of dig into in other little segments, maybe first memories, or if we can find the pieces of hardware, we could even feature it maybe in a video podcast as part of the experimental thing. But yeah, that's something Matt and I both share for sure, is that kind of the love for it, and the kind of thought it'd be fun to kind of dig into it.
If you're listening to this, you probably do exactly what we do. You're following big news articles. You're interested in a couple of games that Nintendo makes, and you're really into you're constantly looking them up. You might be typing Nintendo news into your Google
Google machine, absolutely. You're yelling at every Amazon Echo in the room and demanding the latest and greatest in Nintendo news. I didn't say the name for fear that I was going to invoke it, but this is something that I think might bring up a good point. And many of you likely are doing the exact same thing. Perhaps talking to a buddy, talking to a friend on another system perhaps that has more of a comprehensive voice chat thing. I know that's what my friends and I do a lot of, and so we're just kind of bringing the same style of things that kind of takes that we like, and it'd be awesome to. Something King D, our fan highlight of the week, but has done a good job doing in the comments to talk about his experiences, and that something we want to kind of roll around with.
Full disclosure, if you're listening to this years from now or months from now, depending on how popular we get and how quickly, King D is our number one fan at the moment, as of April 28th.
He's doing very well. He has a sizable lead. No, totally fine. I mean, that might be something Matt and I have talked about, having some other of our friends on to talk about their experiences.
Right. So we have and we're looking forward to bringing some of those people in and really evolving this podcast as we go through. But really, we're doing this for us. It's fun. We hope that people do catch on, and ultimately we're doing this because we share a love for Nintendo.
Absolutely.
And we'll continue to divulge those little anecdotal stories.
Find ways to kind of work it in with the news, and perhaps other videos that look more specifically at that style of stuff, or a game, or a Let's Play, or those elements. So we're very excited about it.
So we do have a couple of segments. We do have a planned podcast. Our first one is confessions. Now,
absolutely.
So what have you been buying?
Oh, what you been buying?
This is a time where we get to talk about all those things that we've really
been buying. Okay, so since the last episode, honestly, there's a small chance I haven't bought anything since then. I've been talking about the Dragon Quest, been buying a lot of Dragon Quest, but I think at this point my journey on buying Dragon Quest things is basically complete. I think I truly have everything possible on the Dragon Quest side that for the US releases. So I've really just been playing my way through a bit of those. Have you bought anything spectacular since?
Well, so actually, I haven't told Austin this before the episode, because I want to say it before the episode.
Right.
You might be excited about this, but I have a 2DS XL on the way.
No way! So exciting! So I brought my 2DS XL, which I still feel the new Nintendo 2DS XL. Give it its full Christian name. That whole thing is the best version of the 3DS, and so I really love it. So I brought it here, so I'm not gonna kind of play around with it. Not knowing, of course, it was all in vain.
We've talked for a while about it. So I have a 3DS, a 3DS XL, excuse me, and it's great, and I've had it for years. Not the new one. No. Doesn't have the faster processor.
There's no C-stick.
Right, no little nub. But for a long time, I've been kind of just like drooling over the new 2DS XL.
Yeah, it is definitely the best. I own each iteration, and including the new 3DS that has the faceplates, and I love the faceplates. I swap them in and out, but truly the new 2DS XL. Write in if you have other thoughts, commenters. But it's just the best version. It feels like the most kind of solid in terms of there's less give on the back battery pack area. It has a nice little cover over the slot. The top screen has that nice black border that's similar to that of an iPhone. It just feels like it's the culminate. It removes the 3D function that is frankly rarely used. It removes a lot of the bulk and the weight, but still feels sturdy in a way that's comfortable.
I think what I'm going to enjoy about it most, it's a great pocketable device. And as I've been playing with the Switch a lot more, especially I do a lot of handheld.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Play with the Switch.
Yeah, most of the time I do.
And an hour in, 40 minutes in, I'm like, oh god, I gotta go to bed because my arms are tired.
Right, I'm just so weak, and that's another thing I really want to highlight in a podcast. Is I can't even hold a 3DS XL anymore. I hold that thing up, and I'm like, oh, what a hefty machine. Let alone the Switch. And the 2DS is really the best. That's so exciting. It's
yeah. So I got the kind of turquoise, and black one. I really like that color. Here I'm looking at. I was looking at earlier the official Pokeball one, which Austin has. So it's nice. It's nice to compare the two with mine, my fatter one here.
No. It's
it actually has a button. I don't know if you all knew this. Maybe you did, but the Pokeball button actually
has the button. Right,
actually is tactile. It clicks.
It does click needlessly, and I do love it for it. The Pikachu one that came out recently doesn't have any button aspect, but it the nose of Pikachu is raised above. It's very cool. Even the there's a Dragon Quest one in Japan that's a liquid metal slime, and it's it has this really cool it is raised liquid metal slime is basically looks a bit like Ditto, but it has a rounded head portion that kind of rises up from the ground. Ditto were a slime, and then as in a kind of a flat ooze looking thing. Anyway, it looks really cool. It has this sheen and metallic look to it that's totally reflective. It looks so neat. I love when they get experimental with that stuff, and Nintendo only really does that for the handhelds. They're not so far doing something like that with Switch besides the Joy-Con colors.
Right.
It's so cool.
Which, gosh, that I'm really hoping for more of, and I know that they're coming. I think that's. No, absolutely. We'll save that for predictions.
Whoa! Yes, we'll talk about all that later. Okay, well, that is so cool. Okay, Salvations. What you been playing? What have you been playing?
All right, so I have actually just downloaded the Battle Royale Kirby demo.
So fun.
Haven't played it yet, obviously.
Really is fun, but it's way too expensive. So for Reggie Fils-Aimé, when you listen to this episode, lower the price on the thing. 3DS, I love it. We're going to talk about 3DS a bit on this episode because it came out in the investor call. They talked a little bit about 3DS and what their plans are, and not necessarily big surprises, but framed in such a way that does give some idea that maybe there will be bigger things coming out for 3DS. But in any event, or at least some longevity to it, beyond what we already know. But for the 3DS, there's been a few releases in the fall of last year, like Kirby Battle Royale. Right. That was even, I think, early this year. And Mario Top 100. These really cool multiplayer games that are local. You have to have someone else there, which is a little bit bummer. It's not an online thing. But they're are so
millions
they're
these
of
devices
awesome
out there. So.
Right. There's this awesome party game option, and it's just totally outpriced, and I gotta think no one's picking those games up. They really, they have the Nintendo Classics or Nintendo Selects label on 3DS games, and they're continually adding stuff to it, but very slowly. They added Link Between Worlds Super Mario 3D Land recently to it, but it's just like at a snail's pace rolling things out, and they gotta lower the price on those games because they were such an awesome. They would be such a great thing to just like have digitally on 3DS to like play with a buddy. But yes, I've been playing a lot of Dragon Quest for my games recently. So I'm playing Dragon Quest 7 a bit. Also the mobile version, I beat Dragon Quest 2. That was exciting for me, and I just started Dragon Quest 3. So I've been doing that, and then that's really it. It's been a busy week, and I'm doing some traveling.
Yeah,
so.
same. I've been putting in more hours into. I've been playing a lot of Splatoon too.
Very cool.
Obviously, the 3.0 update hit, and I've been all about gathering new gear. I'm really into the new stages that have been out. Actually, there's a lot of new music. The music.
Really?
Oh, okay. I don't know. I'm really into the little squid like inkling music.
And
nothing wrong with that. It felt like every fourth game they would play the Mario Odyssey theme song like constantly.
Oh, really?
So I'm just like, oh my god. So now there's a couple of new tracks, and I'm like, all right, this is like it's like 2 weeks from now I'm gonna be like, oh gosh, the same song.
No. I'll need to check it back out. We have some talking about Splatoon to do, but
which we'll get to.
And I'm so excited for the DLC, which comes out now in just a couple months, and they.
Summer is around the corner.
Such a significant update. Okay, good on our salvations. And lastly, we do have corrections. I don't know that we were specifically called out for anything, so I have to assume we got it 100%.
Nailed it.
Nothing wrong. Another perfect podcast for the books team, so we got it.
But yeah, typically we will, we are authentic human beings, all right? We're going to take ownership when we're wrong, when we say something infactual. We want to be called out. We want to,
Yeah, we're
trying to provide an honest show here.
Made better, and it's really up to the community to really keep us in check on that. But as far as I'm aware, no big slip on the last few.
All right, so
I think we mentioned our boy King D, was our fan check-in. Now we haven't necessarily heard from him substantially last episode, but he did comment. Great of him to do so. We're thankful for him. So that is all good news there.
Love you, King D.
I know, really great dude.
All right, I think it's time for some big news.
Matt, how many items do we have today for the news segment?
We've got 7 items.
7
items. It's like lucky number 7, lately. Maybe that should be a thing.
Lucky number 7, it's like lucky 7. That was an item in Mario Kart 7, correct? It's like in Mario Kart 8, there was the 8, but 7, they were wait for it 7.
Right. Is the 9 gonna happen?
Oh my god, what else did they put in there? Bring the chain chomp back from Double Dash?
Right.
In there? Can you imagine?
You know what I actually thought would be interesting is
we got Bull Bill in this
quick sidebar here. The cherries, the duplicate. How fun would that be? Where like if someone
3D World,
they throw a shell or something at you, right? And if it hits your duplicate, then like you're fine. Your duplicate gets KO'd.
Interesting.
But it also blocks the road a little bit too. So like you kind of like have to get around more.
But it has mass, which I believe is the way it worked in 3D World.
And it would be great is if you could even add on to that. They compound, so you like get another cherry and like whoa, the whole freaking road.
You block it, you just pull the brakes, no one can pass you. That would be very.
So our number one thing in the news here. First, we've got a new president of Nintendo.
USA, baby, it happened.
No, we got so new CEO for Nintendo.
Yes.
We've got let me pull this up here. The Wall Street Journal obviously was reporting on this. Tatsumi Kimishima, obviously the tentative president, right? The interim president. He took over for the late Iwata. Rest in peace. Great, wonderful man. We've got a new president, though, who is 68 years old to a 48 or 46-year-old president.
Yeah, that's wild. Because a lot of these people who, I know this is certainly the way Nintendo's been, they've been running it for a long time, and I think it is common practice, more so in Japan, you don't see as many really youthful members of leadership. It's something that's like a role that you kind of come to with having a long tenure at the company and really proving yourself over many years. It is a lot of it's respect-driven towards people who have some longevity in the company, and so it's a little wild. This person is, a bit younger.
I mean, 46 to be a CEO of a major Japanese company, and now we've been listening to other podcasts. I can't claim this knowledge, but listening to other folks talk about this individual, he's done time in Nintendo of Europe. He's spent some time in Germany. Was on the board for the Pokemon company for a little bit.
Cool. No,
So this gentleman is very now. I know Iwata came from a developer background. I don't know about the president before Iwata. But
don't know either.
I know that was a very key piece. And Kimishima, I know, has been a part of Nintendo for a very long time. And he's going to continue to be a part of Nintendo. He's not leaving Nintendo. He's going to be very influential. He definitely... It's really interesting. His mark on Nintendo history is going to be one that saw a lot of success.
Yeah, a huge map.
And a lot of that's kind of like, is really Iwata's doing.
Totally.
And I think
it's always hard to kind of parse that because you don't know. Without sitting on the board, it's hard to tell. But I know that's like a lot of Iwata was there
things
for
that he was
a
putting in
rougher
place.
sales period.
Right.
But it positioned them for like a lot of success.
But he executed. And,
right, absolutely. A lot
so
of credit there.
It's like great. You're like, oh, but like Nintendo's like on a run right now.
For sure.
Now I'm excited because I think that like many of Nintendo's like new IP and their developers, I think a youthful injection into this company is key. Anyone who's listening to this podcast knows that Nintendo is usually like just seems so like one step forward, 3 steps back.
Right, they do. And certainly the Switch year has been really positive for them. They've seemed to get some of it, but with stuff like the online infrastructure,
right,
and big
cloud
question marks,
saves.
All these things that are like kind of these amenities we have come to be used to on other consoles that Nintendo takes a long time to catch up to. So he has a good point, Matt, that I do wonder how they're going to start. Hopefully, it's going to bring some perspective into it that's maybe a little more forward-facing or has a better context for what we feel like we want and expect nowadays from a major tech company.
So Shintaro Furukawa, I'm sorry, we didn't even get to say his name. So Furukawa is actually, he comes from a marketing background, so he has a lot of experience, I think, in like just pushing massive, like, sometimes like the marketing campaigns for Nintendo have been hit or miss, and not that like he is.
We would like to play.
Right. Oh,
love that.
Love that. Actually, that was great.
Love Who Are You? That's back in the GameCube and Game Boy Advance when it was like people and they'd like turn into like
was
Samus,
it like sitting in the middle of like something?
Yeah, love. So I will always have an
someone's like wave racing inside
the
cube.
Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's like less good. But that's interesting too. And I would say like the global reach, like you mentioned, in terms of working at other of Europe or Pokemon Company, like it just does inspire quite a bit of confidence. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and he speaks English. He speaks fluent English. So a lot of folks are like, could this mean more FaceTime and Nintendo Directs? Is he, and there it does like, Iwata had a charm to him.
Yeah, wonderful. And he had his like signature hand movement and stuff that was like during his Nintendo Directs and things like that. And he would, I remember like if you made that motion right with the Joy-Con, that was like part of the trick to get like that golf game unlocked or whatever. That was like part of the code and honor thing that was I think removed. But the so neat. But I do remember, I believe Kimishima, if I'm correct, but there was some portion of it where it was like he was always going to kind of be interim. Like I don't think it was ever going to be a permanent thing. He was not forward facing in terms of public events. Like I don't think he was shown at all for the Switch announcement. My interactions with seeing his face have been mainly in like news articles about him, less so like during a direct he just certainly doesn't have a presence there. So it would be cool to see that a little more. And I think there's a level of approachability. I think Nintendo has done generally a good job keeping the West and NOA, for example, for our context, and Nintendo Japan at a similar level. I mean, there isn't like a big feeling, at least for me, where it's like Japan gets all the cool stuff. Occasionally they'll get something for sure, but by and large, it's like they seem like they work pretty well together, better than like Sega of the 90s or things like that, where it was like really well documented that like Sega of America had a really hard time working with Sega of Japan.
We've had a couple of global launches, right?
Yeah, most things have, like Pokemon, that was like a big one. Really positive. And I honestly feel like less and less do I see things, or if anything, Nintendo of Europe tends to have like the cool special editions and stuff, and it's like, why are we not getting that? Those things more than anything else. We're all, for the most part, besides I think Monster Hunter, getting all the same amiibo, like the maybe Box Boy. I don't think we got that amiibo, but you can still get them. Like the overall, I think they're pretty good on that level, but I think it's only going to enforce that further.
So our next number two
item two.
We've got Nintendo had their recent financial briefing.
This was cool. I would say this was more than I expected necessarily out of it. Like these are always
some
interesting
tidbits.
Exactly. You don't really know how much is going to be investor focused versus that for the consumer. And this one actually had like a lot of exciting news.
Right.
Which is always like we talked about in previous episodes, like with the directs and the minis, and it's like the Nintendo, you feel like they'll announce something and then there'll be another direct or a mini afterwards, and there'll be no mention of the thing that announced them the last time, and it always gives me a feeling of like they've got a lot to announce. Like we don't hear the same news again and again, whereas I feel like Sony, who I do really love still, but they're guilty of like they'll announce Spider-Man, and then we'll see it for like 3 trade shows or 4 trade shows of the same-ish thing. And it's like, come on, like I'm just ready for the game now. Nintendo tends to like announce something and step off of it. And then the thing will come out that year, which has been the way recently, and they like won't have a million directs on. They're always announcing more stuff. And this felt like that too. It's like a lot of cool numbers and some small game announcement related items out of this whole thing. So what kind of numbers did we get out of this map?
All right, so what we had numbers on the Switch and Switch sales, as well as 3DS sales. So specifically, so the 3DS released in 2011. Yeah. I remember we've recounted this before when we got them, where we were.
Exciting time,
and how we both were like, why isn't there anyone else
like,
passing me?
Why don't I have a team of people to talk about Steel Diver with? Where's my Pilot Wings 3DS fan community?
And hey, Steel Diver, no knock on that.
Nintendo Dogs 3DS version. Where's my people on that one?
I'm actually surprised Nintendo Dogs is not somewhere on this like top list. But
I'm honestly surprised too.
So 3DS exceeded sales over around 72.5 million.
Yeah, 72.53 million, which is pretty wild. That's like very good. We might want to pull up, if you don't mind, maybe the DS sales, which I know totally eclipse this, but it's still an incredibly impressive number, which is very cool. And if you consider like kind of on track, it has been out for 7 years now. So you do in March, I believe is when it came out, of 2011. So you figure that's about it's about 10 million units a year, which is a totally good pace. And they've had certain, and that's also not totally fair because to some respect you could kind of consider they've had if you took their yearly sales thing and stopped it when the Switch came out, it would probably be the average would be a little higher because it has been a little bit quieter year. Although the sales were really strong, and I actually believe, as we talked about previously, like December and January were like some of the best selling months for the 3DS even this year with the launch of the new 2DS XL and Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. So it's cool. But Matt, in comparison, what was the DS looking at? Just so you can kind of
154.02 million.
That is still so crazy. That's
still the best-selling console in history.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy time.
If you're listening to this, you had one. You may have had multiple.
If you're like me, you probably had 4.
Yeah, the DS Fat, DS Lite,
DSi,
perhaps
DSi XL if you're really wild. Which actually I did not own. That's one of the few.
I did not know, but I remember my friend's mother, who was so into Ace Attorney,
Phoenix Wright.
Phoenix Wright. She needed it to be larger, and she was so excited when the 3DSi XL came out.
Yeah, the DSi XL is totally wild. I remember when it came out, I was like, oh, it's strange. Also, like the resolution of the screen isn't like necessarily better, so like it looks kind of funny. But what's so wild to me is because, of course, the first redesign of the 3DS was the XL models.
Right.
But it was funny because the DSi XL was kind of positioned as a device for kids because it was like the colors it came out with it was like a black and a red. But the stylus was like massive. It was like a pen.
Yeah, it looked like like Crayola. Like
absolutely.
Felt like
it was like huge.
Really, those big
really
pencils you had
diameter.
in like 3rd grade, until you could write with a smaller pencil.
Exactly. It like had that appearance to it, like the designs, and like they would come with a case, and like accessories that were all like kind of kid themed. And so I was surprised when they brought that to the 3DS line. But in 3DS line, it's the one to have again. So we talked about the 2DS XL. But
so in comparison though, we had the 153 million, right?
Of the 72.53
3DS,
totally awesome on
which
3DS.
Is fantastic.
We're not even going to look up the number of sales for the Vita, even though I loved the Vita, but that was like short of 20 million. So it's a massive success for a modern day handheld.
So we're just over a year for a Nintendo Switch. They've sold 17.79 million.
Absolutely wild. Absolutely wild because the Wii U in comparison at 13.56 million. So King D called us out.
Both Wii U owners.
Exactly. Only owned one of those. That's part of the problem.
Same.
But if we consider the 10 million average a year loosely on the 3DS, the Switch is totally doing work on it. I mean, it's 17.
Right.
Nearly 18 million.
And we can go so down that rabbit hole of like
it's
all the things it nailed.
For sure. But it's like, and it's a more expensive device even.
Right.
I mean, the 3DS I think was $250 when it came out, which was a crazy town. And we all got those ambassador games because they're like, we're sorry, we dropped the price in like 6 months.
I still got
them. My favorite game is Metroid Fusion on there. Good luck putting it on there if you don't have an ambassador certificate.
I was gonna say I have my 3DS in front of me. I do have the official certificate icon.
I know, I love it. It doesn't animate at all. It's like the blandest thing, and like the memory is so precious on that thing. I look at it and it's like, oh, it's like the ambassador certificate taking up X number of blocks. I'm like, what a waste. But I do love it.
I can't get rid of that. No,
okay, it's precious. precious.
It's always the last thing.
Right. It's worth its weight in gold, which I believe is 100 blocks. But
or the $55 extra you paid for the
But anyway, yes, the Switch has had a phenomenal year, and that's really so exciting. It's
and
totally exceeded their expectations. I think they were saying 15 or
well, they're projecting to sell. Nintendo stating that they're like we're going to sell 20 million more this year. Yeah. And now to me, and that we can go down that rabbit hole too. But to me, that sounds like we've got an ace in our pocket that we're ready. I mean,
Ace Attorney, which are those collections coming out. But yes,
obviously they have Smash Brothers, but I think there's like they're very confident in their.
It is wild because this one ties to the next news item, but it's like as far as game sales go, we'll talk about the Switch because it's on topic. Then we'll talk about 3DS maybe, but like for Nintendo, their best sellers have always been Mario games and Mario Kart. Those have always been, for any console, their best selling things. Much better so than Zelda even. And even though we all love Zelda, it sells very well for them, certainly better than like a Metroid.
And I'm certain most people here probably, if you're listening, if you have Zelda, you've probably put more hours into Zelda than those other two,
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's a massive game and demands your time and attention, and it's beautiful and wonderful. But their best selling things have always been Mario and Mario Kart, and that is still the case for the Switch. And before you say the numbers, Matt, I just want to say it is interesting because if they project another 20 million, right? So we're basically doing what they've already done for year one again, which is pretty impressive. So because we had a year that had Mario Kart, Breath of the Wild, and also Odyssey, it's like, okay, what is it then that's going to push them that far? There'll still be momentum by people picking up those old games, so it's not like they have to completely reinvent the wheel, but what are the big things? Smash sells well for them, but not like Mario Kart.
Oh, and in my opinion, it's Animal Crossing. I'll come right around in the predictions.
I would love to say, but I don't know. I just don't have a lot of faith that they're
well, you got to believe. The Wii U had no Animal Crossing, right? All those Wii owners were crying over it.
There was
the
app where you could sit there
and they were beautiful. And you're like, oh my god, this looks amazing on my TV in HD. And a lot of those.
Can't wait for this game comes out on Wii U any minute,
anytime now.
Right, exactly.
Every E3, I was disappointed. But
then I'll go back on.
You have to believe that they were working on that for the Wii U, and are now saving that for a Switch. And you gotta, just like Pikmin, you have to believe that it's ready to go, or it's around that time. Yeah. And for me, it's an online game. It lines up perfectly with we've got Smash. Smash is going to be heavily online. I think there's going to be a lot of online features, and I would love to see that coupled with the online service release.
100%.
But
I'm with you.
That's my particular opinion. Right. However,
we'll do an E3 prediction as we get a little bit closer to E3.
But you think that there's lots of other Mario games that could come out that could drive your sales.
I wonder how many even just re-released ports we might get of Mario games people might have missed. Even New Super Mario Bros. For the Wii U. That game even
the U.
I think it was New Super Mario Bros. U, right?
You're right.
In any event, it does make you wonder. Makes you wonder a little bit. Matt, read us off the top sellers on the Switch.
All right, so at number one we have, of course, Super Mario Odyssey. The Odyssey. 10.41 million. Next we've got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 9.22 million. Riding on number 3, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, 8.48 million. Splatoon 2, not a close fourth, but pretty close.
Not as far away as
6 million, right? Not as far away as fifth. Then we get the kind of the launch titles.
A little more
random.
1-2 Switch, baby. Right. Did you pick that game up?
No.
I didn't either. I have an element of guilt to it. This is back to our top 100 thing.
That should have been packaged.
It should have packaged in, or just like $20. I would check it out. I bought Snipper Clips and really enjoyed it for that price. And it's like, why was this not that price? But whatever. That's the way it is. 2.29 million. ARMS
came out 1.85 million. Again, these are we're starting to see launch window titles now that are instant kind of I gotta get that game
for sure.
Which by the way, ARMS
very
super
good.
awesome. Super fun.
Great support, great content. I would love to.
We should actually play after this.
Yeah, that'd be very fun.
Xenoblade Chronicles 2, 1.31 million, and I believe this was the best selling.
It is. That's one of our news items. It is the best in the Xeno series as far as selling, which is very exciting to see. Nintendo paired up with Monolith to make these games, and we had a first one on the Wii, then there was one exclusive one which was Wild on the Wii U, and now the fact that it's only become more popular is really promising for the series. It really is a great quirky series, and I'd love to see more like that because Nintendo does not have a lot of kind of JRPGs or really RPGs in their wheelhouse right now outside of the Mario and Luigi games, which have been a little bit rote for a while.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see this, and it's an expansive, beautiful game. They also helped make Breath of the Wild, so it's great that it kind of came back to have a little support on there.
And finally, rounding out our list, Kirby Star Allies.
Yeah.
1.26
That's actually a
million.
wild number because that game has been out for about a month,
Right?
About a month and a half, and
1.2 million.
That's
units.
a lot in a really short amount of time. You know, if we did our very unfair tracking of that, it would be the best-selling game of the year, better than all these things. But that is wild to me. It's also a game that I did buy, have not played very much of, but I don't know a ton of King D did buy it. I don't know a ton of people who did buy it though. However. It's awesome that it sold well. But
I want to buy it. That's a game that I know that I will get eventually because I want to play it with somebody.
Totally.
And I've got a partner. She's finishing school, and at some point, when she's ready,
it's a great game.
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
some PlayStation platforms or whatever. But
same thing
it
with
looks beautiful. Yada. We talked about this.
I'm really interested to see how much Captain Toad sells.
Yeah, I know.
Considering it's a Switch port,
right.
But I bet you it'll sell a ton.
I hope it does. That's a special game.
Captain Toad bites it, although it's on the 3DS,
right?
So,
which is cool too.
So should we transition?
Let's
to 3DS
talk about 3DS games. Another news item. So our top seller, in keeping with what we talked about last time, our top seller, Mario Kart 7, with 17.04 million units. Crazy Town. Totally
and they're
wild.
selling that preloaded on a lot of 2DSs.
They are as well.
You get a good deal on that
for sure. But I imagine most of them are probably still independent. But it's true the bundle, and worth mentioning, like Mario Odyssey, for example, did have a bundle at the holiday on the last sales.
Right.
We talked about it, even Splatoon.
What about our next three here?
Next year are all Pokemon variations. So we have
just making buttloads of money.
Yeah, totally crazy. And they've all sold a very comparable amount of numbers, which is interesting because the first game on 3DS was Pokemon X and Y, which is the second best-selling game on the console.
Right.
16.29 million units. Then Sun and Moon with 16.1, and then finally Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire with 14.06.
So these games are averaging $15 million.
And what's wild to me about it is like the order of it is like scattered. They came out in order of X, and then Ruby Sapphire, and then Sun and Moon. And it's just they've all sold a comparable. It tells you like Pokemon community, they're dying the wool or whatever the heck the saying is. Like in that they will pick up all the entries. It doesn't even maybe necessarily matter the order. You play one, you want to get the other ones, you want to have the connectivity, you want to do the trading. Even later on the list, we have Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, and they've still sold an incredibly impressive 7.51 million. Right. And that only came out in the last fall. That's absolutely crazy town. Like that community is going nowhere, which is awesome.
Well, that's actually pretty interesting because it's almost like less than half of these X and Y, and then Sun and Moon. So I'm really wondering is that because of like that's obviously lifetime at this point, but I wonder if do you see Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon catching fire, getting to that 16 million?
I think it's probably no. I don't think it does.
Or is this the Switch?
I think people are transitioning off. Plus, it's basically a remake. It's basically the Pokemon Crystal or Yellow or Emerald version of those games. Like it's not a unique story stuff. I did pick it up twice, but there isn't a big incentive to pick up both games.
It's just so bizarre because how many we said how many Switch units were out? 17 million, right?
Right.
So now could you imagine on average 16 million units of Pokemon Switch?
Oh my god, absolutely not.
What do you think the attach rate would be?
It's
gonna be huge.
No, absolutely. It is wild.
It's gonna drive the sales of the Switch console for sure. There's a lot of people who own Pokemon games right now who are just like, no, I'm just waiting for Pokemon Smash.
For sure, absolutely. And this fall, perhaps they'll get both.
So just quickly round off the top. Then New Super Mario Bros. 2. The golden one, all the coins. 12.61 million.
That's a lot.
Super Mario Brothers 3D Land. Came out in conjunction with 3D World. 11.96.
I think it came out like the year before, possibly the year before. And yes, I loved that game.
Right, so great.
It's interesting to me that this is actually highlights another truth to Nintendo sales patterns, that the 2D games outsell the 3D, and I'm sure it's an approachability thing, but like 3D Land is a much better game than New Super Mario Brothers 2, which is the other one that sold more than it, but it's always that way. Like I know New Super Mario Brothers on the Wii sold far more than Galaxy and Galaxy 2, but Galaxy 2 is the better game.
Of course.
Absolutely.
I think it's nostalgia, it's accessibility.
I think it's just everyone can do it. You understand it immediately.
You jump, you move right.
Yeah, exactly. You put someone in a bubble, you throw them off the cliff, they earned it.
Okay,
let's talk about the last few. We have.
I'm surprised by this. I thought Animal Crossing would have been a little bit more. Animal Crossing New Leaf at 11.69 million units.
Right.
I think that'll do better on the Switch, personally. Actually, no. It's going to help drive sales of the Switch. Oh man, I think it's gonna be close though. I mean, 3DS. There's so many of them.
Yeah, that's
the game's gonna
I
have
know.
to be pretty cheap.
It's definitely doing well. And actually, I want to talk to another point about these sales in a second. But Super Smash Bros. On 3DS, which is so good, I really loved that edition.
9.24.
9.24.
We actually just met someone at a bar who said that was the last game they played.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a great one to play. I mean, in some ways, I think it's better than the Wii U one, which is still great. But it's like it runs so smoothly. I love like the cell shading look to the characters to really make them
It's
obvious.
fun
Like
to join up with other
the
people
single player
really
mode is
quickly.
better on 3DS one than it is on the Wii U one. The Smash Run thing, but.
Mentioned Pokemon Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, 7.5.
And finally, a little bit of a surprise,
This is great.
Tomodachi Life, which I did not see coming.
So this is awesome because Splatoon 2 sold less than Tamagotchi Life, which make I mean
Tomodachi Life.
Tomodachi, excuse
right,
me.
yeah.
And Tomodachi has a longer lifespan.
It's true, but I did not pick that game up. I played Miitomo on the phone, which is comparable.
This
But I
was a
like,
game. This was a game on YouTube.
This is
just
a
to,
game
like,
that should have come out at the launch of 3DS.
This is a game
I
that should have
love
come out on your cell phone.
It's true, and it basically did, and then it discontinued. But it's like it's the type of thing where it's like I love the concept of the Miis, and I love playing with them on like Find Me and things like that on the 3DS software for Street Pass. But it's like by the time that came out in like 2015 or whatever, I was feeling a little tired of the Miis, so I did not pick that one up. But it's wild to me that it sold so many units, and I think the thing I just want to talk about overall, it's interesting to me, Matt, that like. On these games, the top seller Mario Kart, 17 million, very good. But when we talked about the 3DS itself is short of 75 million, it's like the attach rate on that is still like 1 in like 4.5. It's not which is that's still very good for a console. But the fact that like we look at the Switch and the top sellers are very similar to the number of units sold, right? Mario's more than 1 and 2, which is cool.
Well,
And
I'm wondering if there's I'd like to see the numbers based on region. So I wonder how greater the attach rate is.
Yeah,
in Japan,
and I wonder also
right?
just totally, and it's been out for a long time, and it makes sense. It would not be as as densely attached rate as the other ones, but I will say like the 3DS, I did buy 5. I purchased every edition of it for one reason or another, and I did not purchase 5 versions of every game, of course. So like, I wonder if that is somewhat a contributing factor,
Right.
For some of the things. So worth mentioning on that, Pokemon, of course, bundles both versions in the single number, but they're basically comparable anyway. But
Should we hit on our next item here?
let's keep going on. So this is now item
4.
4.
News number 4
Right.
of 7.
Right.
Nintendo very committed to 3DS in 2019.
So Matt and I talked about this a little bit earlier.
Right.
So I was glad to see this. I have some buddies who recently purchased new 2DS XLs, and we're chatting about them. They've been buying all these DS games they missed and 3DS games, and that's great. I wonder, and I love the 3DS. I was excited about this news. I know some people are a little salty online. They're like, "What? Why bother? Focus on the Switch." But I love the 3DS. I think it fills a different space than the Switch does. I'm comfortable with the fact, however, 3DS being phased out and focusing on the Switch. I'm not threatened by that. But I do love 3DS, so it's just a nice treat to have more things that are for it. And I hope they do continue to support the platform and experiment a little bit maybe with pricing structure, the My.Nintendo account, and the way you get rewards. I enjoy that. It's a good way to pick up games you missed. So I want to see more support for 3DS. I love the themes. I love a lot of things about it. But the interesting note to me is that they do announce 2019. This is also an investor-based call.
Right.
I do wonder if we already know that the remake of Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story is coming to the 3DS next year in 2019.
Right.
I wonder if, for as far as Nintendo's concerned, if they're like, hey, you know what? Let's check that box. That counts for us as 2019 support. We're just going to say we're supporting it through 2019. Because when they show like the little graphic, everything is all 2018 games, of which almost everything is support, right?
Yep.
We do have a new Dylan's Rolling Western series game, which is wild, so that was not a port. But
Dead Heat Breakers.
Dead Heat Breakers, of course, as we all know, as well as the Sushi Striker game, which is coming out on the Switch, a Captain Toad game, which is going to be a Wii
I
and
thought
Switch.
that. I was like, wait a minute.
No, it's coming out both.
It looks way better.
And I know, it looks kind of fun on Switch. And WarioWare Gold, which I'm so excited for. Totally excited for that. Love WarioWare and want to support that. And
now
we
that
just
is a
mentioned-
game I wish was on Switch.
I do too, but I'm comfortable having
would
one last one.
totally buy it on 3DS.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
plus, for 3DS makes sense. It's going to have, it has the tilt functionality. It has the touchscreen for Twisted, touchscreen for touched. Like, it has those aspects, although I suppose you could do that on Switch too, but it requires handheld. But then if you had the motion stuff, you could do smooth move, WarioWare minigames. In any event, it's totally cool and exciting. It's coming out. But the only game is a port, and it comes out 2019. I wonder if we'll see more.
Well, I think so. When you have 72,
Right.
73
you
million
would
units.
think something.
Right.
We'll find some way to.
And folks, folks think that, at E3 we will see some type of new 2DS, something to keep
that would
the
be
platform
interesting.
moving.
I know. I really wonder. I'd be excited about it. I'm always excited for new Nintendo hardware, but
you know, something with maybe some like Luigi's Mansion ghosts on it, but it actually looks like a mansion. A WarioWare gold one.
Oh, it's like all gold. How nice! It's like a gold
with,
like garlic piece or something.
But with like his like zigzaggy mustache on the front.
Can I give it a little thing? Wow, yeah. That'd be totally. I'm
it
totally
actually springs.
Yeah, I love that. I wouldn't be surprised, frankly.
Every time you open it.
Easier things. Nothing else. Another amiibo with a kind of wild, like a super Wario character.
That would be great.
I know,
oh,
absolutely.
Man.
I'm totally excited for that release. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see. Prediction, I think 2019 the biggest support is going to be Mario and Luigi. I do not think there's going to be a big host of games, but I would love to be proved wrong.
Right.
But it'd be interesting.
So should we get to number 5? We've got our Splatfest 2.
Yeah,
and stuff around that.
So really cool Splatfest.
Splatfest 2.
Splatfest 2.
Splatfest.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
I was combining everything.
It's all right. Basically, we talked about Splatfest a few weeks ago. The baseball versus soccer. That does not really move me. You know, the sci-fi versus fantasy gets a little closer to, I think, probably what the majority of the audience is into, which is things that are a little more that are kind of within the kind of nerd and geek culture items. But I think it's cool to have the other stuff too.
I really enjoyed the baseball soccer debate. I think that reached more people.
You're a sportier boy.
Sports.
Sports. You can choose between two of them.
I was surprised how close it was, to be honest.
I know they've all been really good selections for that reason, but most of them are a little quirky, and I think that's fun. But I love the brand stuff. For Splatoon 1, we had SpongeBob,
great.
Which is so cool because it laid right into the Miiverse stuff with the Reddit community, which like all the fun memes and characters.
Which is really the only thing this thing is lacking with this particular Splatfest. I think like the Miiverse community would have been even better. God,
I know for sure, but I'm sure the posting is still really good on this game. It's too bad it's not kind of cataloged in the same way that the Mii one is, but the Miiverse stuff it was for Wii U. But the drawings and stuff are still cool. I'm sure there's going to be awesome ones for this.
So what is our Splatfest?
Well, I want to also for the last one we did also have an Optimus Prime,
Decepticon,
Megatron,
Decepticon
versus the
Autobot,
right, which is cool. So Matt and I saw Dark of the Moon back in the day. That is a fun memory. So this one is so cool. I'm a big fan of myself of these characters, even though they similar. I guess the what is the common thread between this and also the Transformers ones? They both had terrible Michael Bay movies,
films,
right? Although I think TMNT was just produced, but it was still. I still blame him. But but this has Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is the theme, and the way they're doing it is really cool. Right. So. As we all know, there are 4 Toidles, right?
Fun fact, my university's main library, all 4 printers were named after the Ninja Turtles.
The Turtles and not the artists.
No,
I'm not familiar with, right? I love the Turtles, and they all have always had, since their heyday in the 90s, the wonderful, kind of archetypal itch. They have like very specific characterizations, and so you have Michelangelo, he's the party dude, and you have Raphael, who's a little harsher. Leonardo's he's the leader, and Donatello is the techie, and so it's so fun to see them brought into this and choosing definitively, despite their little differences, what's the favorite. I think it's so fun, especially because everyone has such different opinions on him. Like personally, I love Donatello because back in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1989 arcade game, he had the longest reach with the poles, we all know. Right. So he could do those throws like nobody's business. He was easily the best turtle. Whereas good luck playing Mikey because you're gonna get a real close to those nunchucks, and it's not gonna be easy. Right
now, currently, it's Raphael, Leonardo.
Yeah, okay, so as Matt's alluding to, the way it works is it's going to be tiered. It's the kind of tournament structure. So you start with Raphael, is that what we just said? And Donatello, right? So
Leonardo.
Leonardo, excuse me. Right. Okay, and they're always kind of competing for leadership of the group. So that's an interesting dynamic to me. And then we'll have Donatello and Mikey.
And that's what I think is most interesting is how they decided these two versus these two.
Right, and then those will go on to face each other in a final round. And I love that kind of tiered thing. I love seeing the shirts. It's so cool. The art they put out, each has the themed characters,
cool.
matching colors.
They do have a special image of all the
And this all coincides with the rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles new show, animated show, kind of Nickelodeon. This is also #ad. We are getting huge money from them. Can't even afford if we were. How amazing. But no. It's really cool that they coincide with that.
Did you see this? They're actually the names of each of the Ninja Turtles are actually spelled out.
I love that. It's like the perfect.
Language.
I know it's the perfect way to like, as if it hadn't already been done. I assume it has,
these,
but like to
these Inkling
decipher all
kids
of it,
are all watching.
You get
on
all
Saturday
the letters,
morning,
right?
You know?
I know. I love that's a great pickup. I noticed that earlier. It's so cool. They have all their names. If you look at the art,
the colors are there.
Yeah, we can put it as maybe the background image for this episode. But it's so cool to have like the letters written out.
Now, it's also interesting to note that this is true. Like, so these colors, they represent the ink that you're actually painting during Splatfest.
Yes, love that. It reminds me of like the first one we had, like the mayo versus ketchup.
Oh,
it's
God.
like this hideous cream. But it's cool to have this. I like love that. It's the perfect kind of visualization and show of faith or passion for each one of these characters by having their color dominate the stage. I love it. It's such a great use of it. I'd love to have more of it, more shows like that where it's especially these like kids animated things that are awesome and worth promoting, and like the but just like, what if we had one right now? I just saw Infinity War. Matt has not seen it yet, and like loved it.
I know.
But what if you had one? But what if you had like a green for the Hulk?
Right.
A blue for Cap, a red for Iron Man, and then you also had like a white or or gold or something for Thor. Like what you chose between each one of the Avengers. Like that would be so awesome. You have so many people.
That would be awesome. Seems a little too high profile.
No, for sure.
Splatoon,
I'm sure Disney's like, what is a Splatoon? Like they are not interested. They do not need this. Whereas this is actually going to benefit.
Although, I don't know.
I'm totally turned on.
I'm surprised we haven't seen some sort of Disney Nintendo partnership.
Well, that's a long-standing right. Like that was like the dream back in like the GameCube era, or even like the harder moments of the Wii U. It's like how, especially GameCube though, like because N64 was not the hot seller we associate. The GameCube was not. It was even worse selling, and the Game Boy Advance sold really poorly comparatively to the Game Boy Color or Game Boy proper, and they picked back up with the DS and the Wii, and they got back on track. But in that really significant lull, decline from NES, decline to SNES, decline to N64, decline to GameCube. It was like, what if we had a company like Apple or Disney or something who came in and like showed up, gave them a little direction on it, which I think they've carved their own path now, and I'm glad. It's always good to have different
Nintendo
companies
has
that drive.
showed admiration for the Apple model.
Oh,
right?
always. And I think we talked a little bit it's like, yes, the color of iMac
as
with
represented
Steve Jobs,
by these 3DSs
right.
and 2DSs.
When Steve Jobs came back to Apple, after he was done with his cube concept, and he came back, and then he brought with him the iMac concept, and that clear plastic color and everything. It was echoed by the N64 models, had colors that looked just like the iMac, and the DS Lite looks exactly like a MacBook.
Circa 2011. Or excuse me, 2008, 9.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Those kind of plastic MacBook look was totally replicated by the DS. They've always had like a back and forth on that, which is so cool to see. Two companies that really value design. I mean, even though one is Cupertino, California, one is Japan. It's like so neat to have that. Clearly a level of admiration if they never act on it, but it would be cool to see.
So we got two more news items.
Two more. One of which we did talk about, which is cool to see Xenoblade.
So.
And I will say also in Xenoblade, something that is neat, is they announced a new set of DLC. They're really doing an amazing job supporting this game, and that's awesome because RPGs, they are. I've not beaten Xenoblade. I've beat Xenoblade Chronicles, the first one on the week, but I've not beaten the Xenoblade 2. And it's cool. JRPGs are massive games where they end, and that you're working to the ending, and that's often like enough. Tend to be so massive. I think it took me about 60 hours to get through Xenoblade, and by all accounts, Xenoblade 2 is just as long. But what is cool is that they're putting all this more content in, so there's like a super hard mode, basically like an epic tier difficulty. There's more content with the season pass owners, which is neat. They've done a really good job with the season pass in that game. There's like new rare blades, which are the collectible unit in Xenoblade 2 that have a big impact on that's your whole party composition and ability to do attacks are based on these rare blades. That's all the fun of collecting in that game is based around those characters. And so cool that they there was Xenoblade content back last year in Breath of the Wild.
Right,
even.
That's right.
It's so neat. It's so cool they're continuing to support it. And similarly, on our final news item,
Fall Out of the Sky, they do.
Is the Dragalia Lost. So this is a
Dragalia. Yeah, right. So
this is a new JRPG coming
by Nintendo.
Well,
partnership.
And with Psy Games.
Right.
So this is really cool. So it's an iOS game, and I'm excited about this. I will say this: the artwork is incredibly generic. I do like the way it looks, but each character, like the main character, looks like he may as well be like Roxas from Kingdom Hearts. So, like he looks
Right.
very, very similar, which looks the
Right.
same as Kingdom Hearts fans will know. It looks very similar to Zora and Sora and other characters in that series. But the it looks like a little bit generic art-wise, but it's cool to see because I've enjoyed the iOS adventures that Nintendo's been putting out. I have not played all of them for super long. I mean, I played through all of Mario Run, which I thought was great. I played a bit of Animal Crossing, which I totally enjoyed. I think we should talk about Fire Emblem at some point. Maybe not this one because we are getting a little on the long side as always. But like I've been playing a lot of Dragon Quest. I just beat Dragon Quest 2 on iOS. It's perfect fit for it. And this looks like the graphics are a little bit similar to the recent. If you've seen like the Secret of Mana remake.
Yeah, it does.
It's like kind of chibi, and it's not really. I don't love the art. I prefer the pixel look. Certainly, the Dragon Quest games or the original Secret of Mana. But
if this thing is anything like, I just pulled this up. Find Me 1 and 2.
Oh yes.
Well, I
That's
mean,
the dream.
and then, obviously it's not gonna be nothing like that because there's no Street Pass function. But for me, like when I thought of Nintendo and like RPG on a mobile device, I'm thinking like, oh, like Find Me, or you're trying to get
But
past
it's like
enemies.
the thing about that is like we talked about 3DS 2 episodes ago, and like why we wish that functionality was in the Switch. iOS is way more capable of doing a lot of this stuff. Even without some type of like, though phones do have the kind of near field communication now that enables things like Apple Pay or actually NFC on Android devices, like. It would be so cool if they were able to make more of a community out of it. I think the worry, which is legit, is like Nintendo games so far do have a lot of microtransaction options.
Right.
I think they're done pretty well. I think Mario, I liked the $10 thing. If anything, I wish they had something comparable for Animal Crossing. I'm sure it was not as lucrative for them.
You're speaking to the iOS.
The iOS games,
apps.
like there's like the in-app purchases a lot.
Right,
like
right.
Mario only had the one. I really liked that, and I actually thought Fire Emblem was really good. Fire Emblem Heroes.
Yeah.
And I didn't stop playing because of the microtransactions. I'm not someone who, as long as they're done tastefully, I'm not particularly bothered by microtransactions just by virtue of being in the game. I just hope it does not drive the entire game. I would much rather this be a $10 game and that's the whole thing.
You buy it, it's good.
You play it for as long as you want, and then it's over. Without it's so awesome. They're putting so much content into Fire Emblem Heroes. That's awesome. I love Fire Emblem. The Reddit community on that game is so vibrant, which is awesome, and they're like always putting out new artwork. They will re-release characters like Lyn or Chrom, and they'll be in like special outfits. It's like an Easter outfit, or like Camilla's like a sexy bunny, or like there's like a you can now use these characters with a different weapon, like a lance or whatever, and that's adds tons of life to it. I think that's really neat. It always, though, is the caveat of it does have the a bit of the gambling-ish feeling, although microtransactions gambling perhaps is another conversation, but it does have like that in-app purchase thing that is a little, it runs the risk of being overbearing, and I hope this does not fall into that trap. I think they've done an overall good enough job avoiding it, but
I think
the risk is there.
Right, I think it's very interesting. If let's say it was like a $10, $15 dollar purchase, right? Because Nintendo was so vehemently against that,
right?
Like devaluing their games by putting them on mobile devices and charging a very low price for their game. Obviously, they're doing this to make sure they're drawing people towards their home console, towards their other games and software. Right. Which I think, like when Fire Emblem Switch comes out, it's going to definitely benefit from Fire Emblem Heroes.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Animal Crossing, when that inevitably hits, is going to be like we've already saw.
Yeah, and
a Switch console was just released as one of the little in item things.
That is so cool. It would be cool if they worked both ways. That you do have the Nintendo account connection that is on the Switch.
Right.
You could put those together, and that would be really neat to play, like make a little progress some way or another.
Right.
Send some bells home or something like that. Like, would be neat. It'd be cool.
That would be so great.
Like Fire Emblem Heroes and the real Fire Emblem game. Like, what if there was a mode or something where you could do something to then generate, like, oh, now there's a chance one of these heroes will encounter you in the real game. Or if you unlock something Fire Emblem Heroes, like, oh, look, the character, I want to say Anna, the shopkeeper character,
right,
who's been in the most recent 3DS games. What if she, like, if you reached a certain benchmark or finished the second campaign in Fire Emblem Heroes with all those unique characters, which is really cool they were doing that. What if you finish that and it's like, now that character from Fire Emblem Heroes will be recruitable in the Switch game? That'd be so cool. Like, I would love that. It's been neat how they've actually used the DLC, even though there's a lot of it, for the 3DS games.
Right.
With the extra campaigns and characters and ways to get items and way to get high-level classifications for Shadow of Valencia and stuff, which is really neat. But what if they had like an unlockable and I would totally finish playing through those games, or at least look at how they've changed. We mentioned ARMS earlier. ARMS, the game that's only continued to develop and grow, and you go to open up ARMS now, and it's like a way more robust game than it was when it came out last year. The same thing goes for Fire Emblem Heroes. That game is only growing and evolving, and I don't really have a real reason to check it out again because I have a lot of games on my plate, but I love Fire Emblem. If the new one had some way to push a character into the new one, just an optional character, and affect the story, it was free as long as you completed it. They just want to get you playing the game, which I'm sure is how they'd implement it. That'd be incredible. That'd be so fun.
It would be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I think that ends all 7 news
right,
items.
That's a lot. And we did start with our headliner. So I think
we're good.
I think, Matt, that ends what is episode 1 of ANP, the real launch.
Woo! Congrats. Cheers.
Hey, cheers to that. We clink it, and that's our explicit tag. But the super exciting. Thank you so much for listening, as always. We're looking forward to kind of the things we're going to play with on the show. We hope you've been enjoying the little changes and the tweaks and the album art. You've done a great job with Matt on this.
Right.
Ones. And
if you have been listening prior to this episode, then you know that we like to enter or exit with a song of choice.
Exactly.
We like to sing a song, a Nintendo song.
A Nintendo song.
This one's not technically a song as much as it's a melody.
It's a sweet tune to drift you right off.
Can I like turn it on to help us hum?
I think you may. I
will.
All
right, here we go. So we have
spot
for you
spot this song.
The Nintendo 3DS.
Who's that tune?
Me Plaza.
Me Plaza Music, and any 3DS owner will know it very well. And they're getting those puzzle pieces or the Find Me things, or booting into it, going to that Plaza gate.
Otherwise, thank you for joining us for another Nintendo podcast, and we will see you next time.
Absolutely. Matt, play us out. There it is.
Oh. Yay!
Very nicely.